Delmarva Today with Don Rush.
Eastern Shore Delegate Carl Anderton is leaving the state legislature and headed to become Maryland's Director of Rural Economic Strategy under the Moore administration. We'll have an exclusive interview. Mayor Randy Taylor's proposal to eliminate the Rainbow Crosswalk drew some sparks at this week's Salisbury City Council meeting. We'll have an exclusive interview with Councilmember Michelle Gregory. And our Kevin Diaz takes a look at the life of watermen and their declining numbers. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. First, we turn to Susan Canfor, reporter for Coastal Point. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Don.
So, Susan, Delegate Carl Anderton, a Republican, is joining the Democratic administration of Governor Wes Moore, become the Director of Rural Economic Strategy. This seems to come as a surprise, certainly to Anderton as well as some other Democrats and myself. What do we know so far?
We know he'll be stepping down from the elected position he's held since 2015. The moderate Republican, who is 51 years old, and who you might remember unseated longtime Delegate Norm Conway, has been appointed Director of Rural Economic Strategy, and that department is within the state's Department of Commerce. This is a new role for Anderton, with the goal of improving opportunities in rural areas and improving the economy in those areas. In interviews, Anderton is saying he's really happy to have a direct line to the administration. Governor Wes Moore will look at applications for the position of delegate and appoint someone to fill the remainder of Anderton's term, about 2 more years.
We talked with Anderton about taking this new job, and here's what he had to say. It comes as a surprise to me. Was it a surprise to you? Has this been in the works? What's been going on?
Yeah, it was a surprise. Absolutely. I was blown away. The governor would ask me to do anything, that anybody would ask me to do anything is just truly an amazement. We'd had conversations hypothetical about, he was looking to have a bigger presence in the rural parts of the state. He said, look, the 95 corridor, we're there all the time. We really are looking to do more in the rural parts of the state. And, so then he just kind of talked about he wanted someone that was going to kind of, be his eyes and ears and represent him and the lieutenant governor and work with local jurisdictions, gleaning information, gathering facts and things, and opinions. What could the state do better to allow for economies in rural counties to grow? And no ideas off the board. Just looking to build relationships. And so, I said, man, that's a great idea, man. I hope you can find somebody good. And then, conversations kept going about it every time we see each other. And, the chief of staff, reached out and said, hey, we want you to do this. I said, you want me to do what? Find you somebody? And it's like, no, we want you. And, I was just amazed by that. I never really, I had thought, I have ADD, so my mind runs a million miles a second. And so as I'm talking with him and just passing conversations about this, I started building in my head, like, what would I do? I do that with everything. I'm thinking about it now with you. I'm like, what would I be doing if I had your job? It's just something I do. I'm an analytical, I'm a hands-on thinker. Like every time I go into a room, I'm looking at how it's built, and it's just something I do. And so, we had serious conversations, I said, well, actually, I have some ideas. And, he said, I want somebody with your style that, that's going to get out there and it's going to hustle. And I took it as an immense compliment. Truly humbled by it. And so, if the governor's going to ask you to serve, you serve. And anything you can do to try to make life better for your neighbors. I mean, that's the whole point in everything. If you're not here to do that, then you shouldn't be here. And so it was tough. I prayed on it. I talked with my wife, and I just went back and forth because I've poured so much of my existence into this position that I've been blessed to have for a decade now. And we just saw this as a new challenge that, maybe we can take the things that we've done well in this position, serving our neighbors here in Wicomico, and we can spread it across the state and really do some good things. And so, I told him I would be honored. I was truly humbled that he would consider me to do anything.
I've seen you quoted as saying that you would be able to do things in this position that you weren't able to do as, say, a delegate. What did you mean by that? What were the obstacles being a delegate as opposed to maybe being in a position of an administration?
Well, when you're in the administration, you have a truly direct line to the decision makers. When you're in the legislature, legislative ideas, yes. I mean, I have a direct line to that. Absolutely. Budgetary, to an extent, you do. But I mean, being on the front end of everything, instead of me working in Annapolis trying to get things put into the budget after it's already been presented, I have a much better chance at getting local priorities, in the budget as it's being drafted, and that's always much easier because then during session it's easier to just keep something in the budget instead of trying to find money from somewhere else and getting something put in. Now, we had great success doing that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's the one thing that when I leave here, other than the way that I help folks by answering the phone and connecting them and solving problems as best we could, the way we were able to work through the budget process for priorities from where you are at SU to Fruitland, Delmar, Salisbury, helping out, supporting Senator Carrozza with projects in Crisfield and Ocean City, and just the way we were able to do that is something that I'll remember, positively. But this gets us, in my opinion, it's like, not only, we're at the table, we're sitting at the table, we have our own seat at the table, I mean, we have Secretary Day who's already there. I mean, look at the things he's able to do, not only, for Salisbury and Wycomico County, but all across the state. And so we're going to do our best to try to mimic that and give us two bites at the apple, having two people in the administration. And there's more folks from Salisbury in the administration. I mean, you have, Chuck Cook, who was a former resident, and working with Secretary Day. Julia Glanz is working, with Secretary Day. So, I mean, we have an incredible opportunity here with the governor who really is concerned about rural parts of the state, having folks from rural parts of the state in the administration to really maximize this. And I'm looking forward to doing that, not only with constituent services, not only with the budget, but especially on the economic front, gathering information, locally, working here with the county executive, working with, the Salisbury city administration, working with, Dave Ryan. But then there's Dave Ryans all across the state that we're going to get to work with as well, and compile information, commercial space that's available, property that's available, and keeping track of, more regular stats of like, how many people are working, how many business licenses have been issued, where are we at, and how can we compete with our neighboring areas. And I'm excited about that because I've always been intrigued by that during my time in the legislature. And now all the ideas that I've had, coulda, shouldas, over the years, I can now act on them or at least try to anyway. And so I'm really excited about it. It's going to be an amazing opportunity, but I'm still here. My phone number's not changing. Anybody has any problems whatsoever, they can give me a call, and we'll do our best to continue to help folks, because that's always been my priority.
Finally, let me ask you this. You're a Republican. This is a Democratic administration. How does it all fit together? I know that you've been known to work across the aisle when you were in the state legislature. How does all that work?
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, the governor is very similar in his mindset of he just wants everybody to have a better shot tomorrow than they had today. So that's not partisan. We may have different ideas on how to get there, but that's not partisan. So finding an opportunity for someone to get a better job where you can change their family tree for the generations that come behind them, to be a generational blessing, is not partisan. I mean, that is something I think every person who has a heartbeat would want. And so just honored that he would consider me, a viable option to take us on, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm just looking to continue to build on what we've done over the past decade, well, prior, even as mayor of Delmar and on the council in Delmar, just something we've done, since we decided to get into public service, and that's to serve. And we're going to hustle, we're going to grind, and we're going to keep moving.
Eastern Shore Delegate Carl Anderton, who is leaving the Maryland State Legislature to become Director of Rural Economic Strategy under the Moore administration. Now, the governor will choose from 3 names offered by the Republican Central Committee, and Governor Moore will then choose one. There will be no change in the party representation. And also, Susan, we had another dust-up at the Salisbury City Council. This time it was over the mayor's suggestion that the rainbow crosswalk should be painted over. This comes on the heels of his decision not to allow the pride flag to be flown in front of the government building in downtown Salisbury. And of course, he was not in attendance at the Pride Parade and Festival, although the council member, Michelle Gregory, did read a city proclamation at that event. So what do we know about these events?
Well, it was just a few weeks ago when Salisbury Mayor Randy Taylor wouldn't allow the rainbow flag to be flown over city property. Of course, that didn't sit well with not only members of the LGBT plus community, but also their many supporters. So they rose that flag, but they rose it over county property on the grounds of the health department. That was a few weeks ago. There was a program and speakers, including City Councilwoman Michelle Gregory and PFLAG's Mark Delancey, and the flag went up. Now those same supporters are upset with Mayor Taylor's comments about the rainbow crosswalk near the library. The mayor said he is a fan of public art, but his view is it should be inclusive and reflecting the town's history. It should be inspiring, he said, uplifting, and avoiding singular political issues. Mayor Taylor was there at the Salisbury City Council meeting on Monday when, during public comments and also during council members' comments, the matter came up. K.T. Tuminello was one of the speakers. He's involved with the Arts Council, but he said he was speaking on his own behalf, and he said the mayor obviously believes he has the power to erase artwork he deems unfit, and said it is not his decision to make.
Those pride crosswalks were the very first in the entire state of Maryland, and they deserve to be protected as a cultural landmark. If he is successful in removing these, what is next? Where does this end? Is the Black Lives Matter mural next? Or any of the numerous pieces of public art that he may drive by one day and go, I don't like it. Is he going to have it removed? Are we going to allow that to happen? I certainly hope not, because that is not who we are as a community.
Tuminello said Taylor is trying to incite a cultural war, and that if that happens, it's going to take the city years, if not decades, to recover. Taylor started to speak, and Tuminello looked at him and said, "Got something to say, Mayor?" But Taylor said no. He would give Tuminello his full 4 minutes to speak. Later in the meeting, the mayor countered, saying,
I think there's a tendency to people when they disagree, they throw around some fairly harsh terms, and I've heard many things to include the middle finger, but bigotry and hatred, and now he's got me in a culture war. So that's not my intention. There's a whole bunch of us live in this community with a lot of different opinions.
Others spoke in favor of keeping the crosswalk as well. During the council members' comments, Council Vice President Angela Blake was applauded when she said there's no reason in 2024 that a city should not have a rainbow crosswalk. She accused the mayor of saying one of the first things he would do if he was elected mayor would be to paint over that crosswalk. Taylor started to say he never had a strong position.
What she just said was utterly ridiculous. I've never had a strong position on the topic. And number one. Number two, you and I never talked about.
Yes, we did.
Talked about.
Yes, we did.
So I want to
Yes,
make
we
sure.
did.
I can make it.
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
I can make it equally as ridiculous.
Mr. Mayor,
about you saying something.
Mr. Mayor. Well,
Okay.
and this was exactly my point, to not go back and forth.
And then later, Taylor told reporters he's not trying to be unfair to certain groups, but that everyone should be supported, not just individual groups like the LGBT plus community. He said the city has gotten to the point of adopting an inappropriate level of connection with a particular group that is somewhat political in nature. And I am saying there is an artful way to now deal with it, and that is why I am working with the art community. Of course, this has caused a lot of uproar in the community, and we'll continue to follow it as it unfolds.
And later in the program, we will be talking to Council Member Michelle Gregory, who read the proclamation at the Pride Parade and Festival last month about what came up and the issue at large. Also, Susan, Millsboro has a new mayor. She is Kimberly Kahn. She ran on a number of issues, including transparency, as well as looking at changing ways that the council districts are drawn. And from what she told me, she decided to make the run because she missed an election. What do we know about her?
Kimberly Kahn, now in her second year of a 3-year term on the Millsboro Town Council, was voted in as the mayor of the town. The vote was taken at the Monday, July 1st meeting and approved by a 4-3 vote. Also nominated for mayor was Councilman Matt Davis, but he didn't get enough votes. There was some shuffling as council members and the new mayor took their proper seats, and then Kahn, who succeeded Mayor Jim Kells, paused for a moment, looked out over the audience, and said, "I pray to God that I will make our town council and our staff proud with my service to the town. One of the key issues she is facing is rapid growth in Millsboro and the surrounding area."
Outside the town of Millsboro, that would come under the auspices of Sussex County. But I imagine that the county is probably struggling the same way we are, where the growth has happened so quickly that the infrastructure is trying to play catch up. Now, the town is responsible for the water and sewer and for policing, and we're holding our own, but it obviously we need to ratchet things up. You know, the infrastructure is running a little bit behind, but my biggest concern is the traffic. And unfortunately, we are all at the mercy of DelDOT. There is a planning process in Delaware called PLUS, and it's the State Planning Commission, and they invite the players to the table, whether it's a development in town or outside of town in the unincorporated areas of the county. They invite the players to the table, and DENREC and DelDOT are part of that approval process. DelDOT is aware of every development that's coming into Delaware, whether it's in the town or not, and they have the whole picture. And I feel like they're even further behind the 8 ball than we are. The idea of Delaware ever needing to be evacuated keeps me up at night. And so I would have to say my biggest stressor is probably the traffic, but unfortunately, as a town, we can't do a lot about it.
When she ran, the 60-year-old Ohio native, who was well-informed and outspoken, said she wanted more openness and transparency in town government. When she was elected, there was no absentee ballot voting in the annual elections. The polling place at Town Hall was open for a few hours on the day of the election, always on a Saturday, and if you could make it, fine, and if not, you just didn't get to vote. And in fact, as a Millsboro resident and a news reporter, it was sometimes difficult to find out even when the annual election was and who was running. Also, at Mayor Kahn's suggestion, the council recently adopted rules of conduct. She wrote it and brought that lengthy document before the council. What it is, she said, is a blueprint for the future that defines roles and emphasizes decorum. She also said she wants anyone in Millsboro, no matter where they live, to continue to be allowed to vote for anybody in any district, and not just in the district where they live. And she would like district lines redrawn, since they have not been drawn since the 1970s, when Millsboro was not as large as it is now, and when the population wasn't concentrated on the west side as it is now. A few months ago, there was much discussion about this and disagreement among some council members. After all that discussion, the matter was tabled until August, and with Mayor Kahn at the helm, we're sure it will be discussed again.
We also have another person who's throwing their hat into the ring when it comes to the Sussex County Council.
Yes, there's a new candidate for council, Sussex County Council. Jane Gruenbaum is running for the District 3 seat. That seat is currently occupied by Councilman Mark Schaefer. Schaefer's running for a second term. District 3 encompasses Dewey Beach, Rehoboth Beach, Henlopen Acres, Lewis, and the east side of Milton to the Milford border. Ms. Gruenbaum is the co-founder of the Sussex Preservation Coalition, and she says she wants to focus on making sure the rapid growth in Sussex County is a balanced growth. In recent years, she said, the Sussex County Council has been criticized for allowing too much growth. for approving too many requests to build. The candidate says she will represent all the constituents of Sussex County, but she will also fight to protect the environment for the good health of its residents, to save forests, and to protect wetlands, while also keeping the economy healthy. She said she's not anti-development, but that it has to be done with common sense, and that has been a concern among residents. She is a Democrat, running against Democratic challenger Dana Paskins and Republican Mark Schaefer. The primary election is on Tuesday, September 10th, and of course the general election will be on Tuesday, November 5th.
And also finally, in Ocean View, there are some new outdoor classrooms, at least for an elementary school.
Yes, elementary school students at Lord Baltimore Elementary School in Ocean View will have an alternative to sitting in classrooms all day. And who wants to do that? Now with a new outdoor classroom being built at the school on Route 24, right in the heart of Ocean View, students can get outside beginning in the fall. I talked to the principal, Pam Webb, and she is pretty excited about this addition. The kids are going to love it, she said. She said, we looked for something to encourage students to do outside learning, to have learning beyond the four walls of the building. We were talking, and we decided it was important to look out for the whole child. Sometimes they need to get out of the classroom and experience education in a different way. The word is the outdoor classroom was her idea, but she's not one to take credit. She told me it was an idea born of collaboration with the parent-teacher organization. The classroom will be a pavilion with a shingle roof, concrete floor, pillar beams, and electrical service for a ceiling fan. In time, whiteboards and markers will be added for instruction. Children will sit at 6 or 8 picnic tables instead of at traditional desks and use the classroom for a variety of subjects from math to science to reading. The classroom cost $56,000 to build, and a lot of that money was raised by the parent-teacher organization, and there were also what Mrs. Webb called very generous donations from the public. So I'm hoping I can go over there and take a little class next fall.
There you go. At least audit.
At the very least,
right in the
yes.
elementary school. We've been speaking with Susan Canfor. She's a reporter for Coastal Point. Appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Don.
You're listening to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush.
Delmarva Today with Don Rush.